Swami Shiva Prabhupada Graduation of Bhagavad Gita ki. Their most merciful Lord Shri Kunja Vihari ki. Shri Baladev Maheshwara ki. Shri Panitai ki. His dying gold Premanand. All goodies to the assembly. All goodies to the assembly. All goodies to the assembly. All goodies to the Lord Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Namchaivanarottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Bodhayam Dinaya Nastakrayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Vikma Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki. I'm going to be reading from the Opulence of the Absolute, which is chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita and verses 4 and 5. Buddhir Jnanam Samoha Sama Satyam Dhamasana Sukham Dukham Bhavo Bhavo Mayam Cha Mayam Devacha Ahimsa Samta Tushtis Tapodanam Choyasa Bhavati Bhavaputina Mata Eva Pita Vidha. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhai Charananda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The different qualities of living entities, be they good or bad, are all created by Krishna, and they are described here. Intelligence refers to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge refers to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Ordinary knowledge obtained by a university education pertains only to matter, and it is not accepted here as knowledge. Knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and matter. In modern education, there is no knowledge about spirit. They are simply taking care of the material elements and bodily needs. Therefore, academic knowledge is not complete. Asamoha, freedom from doubt and delusion, can be achieved when one is not hesitant and when he understands the transcendental philosophy. Slowly but surely he becomes free from bewilderment. Nothing should be accepted blindly, Everything should be accepted with care and with caution. Sama, tolerance, and forgiveness should be practiced. One should be tolerant and excuse the minor offenses of others. Satyam, truthfulness, means that facts should be presented as they are, for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social conventions, it is said that one can speak the truth only when it is palatable to others. But that is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in a straightforward way, so that others will understand actually what the facts are. If a man is a thief, and if people are warned that he is a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are, for the benefit of others. That is the definition of truth. Control of the senses means that the senses should not be used for unnecessary personal enjoyment. There is no prohibition against meeting the proper needs of the senses, but unnecessary sense enjoyment is detrimental for spiritual advancement. Therefore, the senses should be restrained from unnecessary use. Similarly, one should restrain the mind from unnecessary thoughts. That is called sama. One should not spend one's time pondering over earning money. That is a misuse of the thinking power. The mind should be used to understand the prime necessity of human beings, and that should be presented authoritatively. The power of thought should be developed in association with persons who are authorities in the scriptures, saintly persons and spiritual masters, and those whose thinking is highly developed. Sukham, pleasure or happiness, should always be in that which is favorable for the cultivation of the spiritual knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And similarly, that which is painful or which causes distress is that which is unfavorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Anything favorable for the development of Krishna consciousness should be accepted, and anything unfavorable should be rejected. Bhava, birth, should be understood to refer to the body. As far as the soul is concerned, there is neither birth nor death. That we have discussed in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Birth and death apply to one's embodiment in the material world. Fear is due to worrying about the future. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear, because by his activities, he is sure to go back to the spiritual sky, back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, his future is very bright. Others, however, do not know what their future holds. They have no knowledge of what the next life holds. So therefore, in anxiety, constant anxiety. If we want to get free from anxiety, then the best course is to understand Krishna and be situated always in Krishna consciousness. In that way, we will be free from all fear. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 37, it is stated, Bhayam vidya vini vesita. Fear is caused by our absorption in the illusory energy. But those who are free from the illusory energy, those who are confident that they are not the material body, that they are spiritual parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who are therefore engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Godhead, have nothing to fear. Their future is very bright. This fear is a condition of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. Abhayam, fearlessness, is possible only for one in Krishna consciousness. Ahimsa, non-violence, means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. Material activities that are promised by so many politicians, sociologists, philanthropists, etc., do not produce very good results because the politicians and philanthropists have no transcendental vision. They do not know what is actually beneficial for human society. Ahimsa means that people should not be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. Let me read that again. Ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization, so any movement or any commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called non-violence. Samatha, equanimity, refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not the best. This material world should be accepted without attachment or aversion. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. That is called samatha, equanimity. A person in Krishna consciousness has nothing to reject and nothing to accept, save in terms of its usefulness in the prosecution of Krishna consciousness. Tushti, satisfaction, means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods by unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of the Supreme Lord. That is called satisfaction. Tapas means austerity or penance. There are many rules and regulations in the Vedas which apply here, like rising early in the morning, taking a bath. Sometimes it is very troublesome to rise early in the morning, but whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance. Similarly, there are prescriptions for fasting on certain days of the month. One may not be inclined to practice such fasting, but because of his determination to make advancement in the science of Krishna consciousness, he should accept such bodily troubles when they are recommended. However, one should not fast unnecessarily or against Vedic injunctions. One should not fast for some political purpose. That is described in Bhagavad Gita as fasting in ignorance. And anything done in ignorance or passion does not lead to spiritual advancement. Everything done in the mode of goodness does advance one, however. And fasting done in terms of the Vedic injunctions enriches one in spiritual knowledge. As far as charity is concerned, one should give 50% of his earnings to some good cause. And what is a good cause? It is that which is conducted in terms of Krishna consciousness. That's not only a good cause, but the best cause. Because Krishna is good, his cause is also good. Thus, charity should be given to a person who is engaged in Krishna consciousness. According to Vedic literature, it is enjoined that charity should be given to the Brahmins. This practice is still followed, although not very nicely in terms of the Vedic injunction. But still, the injunction is that charity should be given to the Brahmins. Why? Because they are engaged in higher cultivation of spiritual knowledge. A Brahmin is supposed to devote his whole life to understanding Brahman. Brahma Janati Ti Brahmana. One who knows Brahman is called a Brahman. Thus charity is offered to the Brahmins because they're always engaged in higher spiritual service and have no time to earn their livelihood. In the Vedic literature, charity is also to be awarded to one in the renounced order of life, the sannyasi. The sannyasis beg from door to door, not for money, but for missionary purposes. The system is that they go from door to door to awaken the householders from the slumber of ignorance, because the householders are engaged in family affairs and have forgotten their actual purpose in life. Awakening their Krishna consciousness, it is the business of the sannyasis to go as beggars to the householders and encourage them to be Krishna conscious. As it is said in the Vedas, one should awake and achieve what is due him in this human form of life. This knowledge and method is distributed by the sannyasis. Hence, charity is to be given to the renouncer of life, to the Brahmins, and similar good causes, not to any whimsical cause. Yasas, fame, should be according to Lord Chaitanya, who said that a man is famous when he is known as a great devotee. That is real fame. If one has become a great man in Krishna consciousness and it is known, then he is truly famous. One who does not have such fame is infamous. All these qualities are manifest throughout the universe in human society and in the society of the demigod. There are many forms of humanity on other planets, and these qualities are there. Now, for one who wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, Krishna creates all these qualities, but the person develops them himself from within. One who engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord develops all the good qualities as arranged by the Supreme Lord. Of whatever we find, good or bad, the origin is Krishna. Nothing can manifest itself in this material world which is not in Krishna. That is knowledge. Although we know that things are differently situated, we should realize that everything flows from Krishna. Om Jnana Timiranda Jnana Jnana This is revealing to us several things are being revealed in these two verses. One thing particularly in the end is revealing how society becomes purified. For the most part, all of society is set up for us to be able to engage in the material energy with the hopes of being able to prosper in life. And these desires that we have for that taints the purity of love that we should be having in all of our endeavors towards God. We should be having total love towards God. So, because as human beings, we are of the nature that we are, Krishna makes an allotment for us to take part in the process that enables you to be engaged in the material energy, but by the use of that which you get from the material energy being given to the purpose of the spiritual energy, then all of your endeavors become purified. So normally in society, when someone gives someone some money, the person that is receiving the money is the benefactor. That's normal society, right? It doesn't work like that in Krishna consciousness. If you go out with a book and you explain to someone about this book's ability to reveal the inner secrets of life, and that person is moved by your spoken words, and then in exchange they give you from out of their heart, they have felt that you have touched their heart with that love that is Krishna himself reaching out through you to touch them and to give them the means now to open up the windows of the heart to find. So in their contribution, they are the ones who gets the benefit. See, because they are giving in exchange for a piece of paper, basically, which is the value of these material forms of energy that we put them into. They get now the knowledge that can lead them to eternal realization of the Supreme. Now, as pointed out in this verse also, when Krishna was on the planet, in many visits, he's come more than once, right? He reveals that he has full communication with people who are themselves traveling through the universe. And he takes his beloved Sita in the form of Lord Ramachandra. It says on a space machine, a flying machine, when she had requested a parijata flower. And so similarly, when Krishna was coming back from Ayodhya, then he was coming back from Kurukshetra. There was mention also in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the planet was at that time being observed by people, see, even Indra, who is himself in the topmost planet, governing all the leaders of the entire planetary upper system, the heavenly planets, right? Krishna had full communication with them, coming and going as they were. And as revealed in Bhagavatam, he took part in pastimes with them. Not only were they seen from a distance, but they were face to face with one another. And so what is being revealed by this as well is these things that were considered to be normal with Krishna's presence there on the planet, it's going to be restored. Krishna came in the form of Lord Chaitanya to bring his people back to his dwelling in the spiritual world in Ekanta. And in so doing, in fulfilling the prayers of Murari Gupta, he's going to liberate the entire universe. So that doesn't mean everybody for all time that's ever going to, in the future, be in it. No. But there's a generation that will be liberated. And it will be during this golden age that has been begun by Lord Chaitanya. This Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam. This chanting of Hare Krishna's holy name is going to have such effect on this planet to restore it to its original pristine state. So that in the beginning, when this earth was first put into its position in the universe, it was like a heavenly planet. And when Krishna is here, he comes at a time in which the environmental circumstances are made perfect for him to arrive. We have descriptions of this in Bhagavatam. And what that means is the leaders of every planet are not visiting other places. They're all in their residences, in their homes. And so the environmental circumstances are such that all the planet has communication with all the rest of the planet. They communicate telepathically. They have the ability, and this is coming. We have word by Srila Prabhupada to say that the great-great-great-grandchildren of his disciples will be born with the perfection of the cities. And this is revealing to us that the time is coming in which Lord Chaitanya's golden age is going to be established. The axis right now that we are experiencing causes us extremes of climate changes was not always like that. Since the foundation of the world, there is an architect of the universe. Right? Vishwakarma. And so, knowledge of how all these planets are put into their place and how they are balanced is given to the inhabitants who lived during the time called Satyayuga. And what Srila Prabhupada calls this golden age that is going to reach its peak in another maybe 5,000 years or so. Total knowledge of God will be restored to the inhabitants of the planet. And this is the generation that entirely will go back. See, Lord Brahma came and had playtime with Krishna. And Lord Brahma stole all of Krishna's friends, right? For just a moment. But here it ended up to be for a whole year. Right? So, this is Lord Brahma, 5,000 years ago, with Krishna having an exchange with him, what is called a lila or pastime. By that exchange with Krishna that Lord Brahma had, Krishna gave him a birth that came to us 500 years ago in the form of Namacharya Haridas Thakur. And he reveals to us what Brahma does. He chants. That's all he does. He chants. And that reveals to us what brought him to the qualification to get the position that he had firstborn in the universe. So now, in this age, because we are so fallen, in order to reach us where we are, Krishna is opening totally the storehouse of love of God. He has incarnated in one body with Srimati Radharani in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, revealing now a form of mercy that has not in previous ages been revealed. In order to be able to come in contact with these Vedic literatures, you had to be born in a specific family. You had to gain association of those who had this developed knowledge. And similarly to today, you do as well, but it's not restricted by those who hold the knowledge. The knowledge is by instruction of Krishna himself in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for us to take the responsibility of giving this knowledge to everyone that we come in contact with now. As the prophecies say, love of God will cover the earth like the waters cover the seas. And two, biblical prophecies say that the animal kingdom that now is at enmity with God. You go out into the wild in some places, a tiger will eat you alive, a lion, the hippopotamus, and these rhinoceros and various other animals. There was a time on the planet when the respect was so powerful for mankind, animals would not dare to interfere with mankind's activity. And that was called Satyayuga, in which men lived to be 100,000 years old, in which as well, at the time they were in, many of them were given the choice when they wanted to leave the planet, and if they wanted, they could go to another planet. Now, as we read about these pastimes, it opens up our consciousness to the reality of what rewards there are for those who are willing to lay down their lives for the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and give up all that our minds have concocted as these illusions that we make in our minds to think that this is our home. This is not our home. This is a stopover. And if you will dedicate your life to promoting the truths of these books, you will gain the eternal life. And that's what this movement is established for. The movement has taken a change. I've been here for 42 years. When I came, the movement, we had a full house every morning at 4:15. And Kirtan went out and was so ecstatic, and you're just flowing and sweating, and everybody's just sweating, bodies sweating, perspiring, jumping up and down as high as you can, and just exuberantly chanting and singing with as loud a voice as you could, as like the rafters were shaking, It was so glorious. But see what happens when sinful activity enters in. And what this movement is meant to do is completely break our false egos. Because see, if you're going to join a movement that it already has a specific purpose, you're going to have to put your own purposes aside. And so, with that in mind, by surrendering, Krishna takes care of every aspect of your life. And those experiences you thought were limited in your mind to be able to experience what we think of as happiness, by having the freedom, so-called, to be able to go out and do whatever you want to do in the world, you will find the peace and satisfaction that Krishna himself has the power to award us, because he has control. The laws that are governing the reactions that we get from every activity we take part in this material universe is all under the control of the laws of Krishna. And so when we do good things, we get good things in return. When we bring harm to other living entities or we commit offenses, we get bad reactions. Krishna, in his infinite wisdom, is giving us the means to be able to become completely free from that. And that is how we learn that we have been under the illusion of the idea that we are making our own decisions in the world. By the reactions, we are making decisions by our interaction with the material energy. It's not freedom at all, it's control. Controlled conditioning. So your tongue is telling you what to do, your eyes are telling you what to do, your ears are telling you what they want to hear, the mind. And Krishna consciousness, I do not know of any other process. Srila Prabhupada points out, this is the thing that all academia is missing, is the spiritual knowledge. And this chanting gives us that. Because then you'll be able to see the difference between your mind. When you sit down to chant, ideally, you have in your mind, as you've been instructed, that this chanting requires full concentration on the holy name and the mood you are developing. That Krishna, I'm your servant. Please engage me in your loving devotional service. So automatically, this puts you in a position removed from any other material activities that you're going to be engaged in. But the result of the chanting is not only removing you from that moment, which you would otherwise be involving more karmic reactions, but Krishna is giving the promise that by your constant every day, he's going to wipe out every reaction that you have had for millions of lifetimes. 8 million species of life we have had to go through to get to this stage of human being. Now, look around us here. What percentage are we of this state, right? The entire state of Vishnu. We are a very small percentage. Srila Prabhupada said it will take 10% of the world's population to transform this planet into a heavenly planet. Before I came to the movement, I was exposed to knowledge about things that are going to take place in the future that I was not aware of the significance of until the last 10, 15 years. You see, all this fear everyone is having about the melting of the ice caps. You've all heard this, right? And we're being told that the reason is because we're burning petroleum, we're doing all these sinful activities. But no. The earth is going to be realigned because Vishwakarma had designed this planet in a way for it to be kept by the civilizations that were given the instructions on how to do that. And it was by the building of pyramids that this took place millions of years ago. The foundations of these pyramids go a mile deep. And now they're only beginning to find out what kind of advanced technology these civilizations had to be able to even build these foundational creations. But see, when the earth was pushed under the causal ocean, as we have evidence of by Bhagavatam's explanation, these foundations were moved out of place and in some cases just totally buried under the earth. So there is a rebuilding of 52 pyramids on the inner surface of the earth. I've been wanting for some time now to have a drawing board here. I could reveal to you what I have learned. I learned this before coming to the movement, but I got this from also ancient civilizations of people who we know have early connections the same way. Robin made connections from under the ocean. He drilled an opening from Sri Lanka, which is at the tip of India, all the way to South America, which is why the Mayan, Incan, and Aztec cultures have the insignia of Krishna's chakra. That is why they hold that as the power that turns the earth. And this chakra has been amongst civilizations throughout the world for most ancient histories of the world. And it was recognized by Vedic culture as Krishna's weapon. So, this uniting force that is going to come about by the chanting of Hare Krishna, see, the forces of karma that are forcing men and women and everybody that's involved in karma is pushing people to do things, some of them sometimes even against their will. And when their will is purified, see, if people don't know the purpose of human life, they're all going to be going about engaging in endeavors that they figure out for themselves is going to give them the best experience here in the world. That's what we do know. It's just natural. But without the knowledge of what this human form of life is being given to us for, and you can't figure it out for yourself, and what it is being given, getting back to when you find that place, a comfortable place, and you start chanting with the intention and the mood of being able to please God, you will find entering into your mind, totally separate from your own personal, as a soul endeavor, here comes these thoughts. Oh, this is not so good to do right now. You don't have to do this now. It's cold outside, it's hot outside, you're too young, you're too old. This thing, that thing, your boss will think you're a fool if you do this. So many things pop into the mind. And normally, carrying out our daily business activities, when thoughts of that nature come into the mind, just don't even think about it, just thoughts, right? But see, these processes of Krishna consciousness that we get, the chanting, the eating only of specific spiritual foods, all contribute to our abilities to be able to gain spiritual knowledge to the fullest extent possible with these human forms. You see, everybody who's involving themselves in karmic reactions, they're not going to get the same action that you are going to get from this chanting. You're going to become free. And until you are, you cannot look at your life objectively and say it has been by your own choices. It has been by your mind. It has been by the senses that you have been conditioned by when you are working and endeavoring in the material energy to gain some benefit from the material energy. And that's just the normal course of business. That's the way we're believing it's normal to do. But it is because our educators in the academia have no means of knowing spiritual from material. So they are constantly involved in that material endeavor. And what does that do at the end of life? Because of the nature of God, because God's nature is of such a giving quality, that what you ask for, you get. So if you want some kingdom in this world, if you want an abundance of things in this world, you would, in order for you to be able to experience that, you have to be brought back into a place of this nature to be able to do that. And that's what we've been doing life after life after life after life, millions of lifetimes. And now, having the ability to discern spiritual from material, Krishna's giving us this ability to be able to discern this in our life and what spiritual activity actually is. Now, if we find ourselves, we have a job. You're forced, you gotta work, you got responsibilities. But that portion that you are able to give, as brought out in this verse, Srila Prabhupada says 50%. But as we read from the Goswamis, it is after everything is taken care of. You have expenses you have to take care of. You have family you have to take care of. After that, 50% is yours and 50% give to Krishna. And that 50% will be used for the purification. See, you have a different, when you give in this mood, you're not giving to give someone else a benefit. You're giving to get the benefit. See, that's the difference in the mood. And see, when we're offering to Krishna also, I have people constantly coming. They give me their car keys, you know. I want my car to be sanctified. Offer it to Krishna. Krishna doesn't drive a car, to the best of my knowledge, and he doesn't need a car. See, this chanting, all the benedictions we're looking for in life, we want to be comfortable in life, we want to be happy and know that everything's secure. But what Srila Prabhupada brings out constantly is that by automatically engaging in this spiritual knowledge and distribution of this spiritual knowledge, Krishna himself is going to make the way for you and open up doors for you that you don't even know are available to be opened yet. And the more you apply, by the purity of your desire to become complete in love with Krishna's love manifesting through you, the more Krishna will empower you to do just that and have experiences with these people that will be brought right into the midst of their troubles and be able to give them that eternal connection that they can make with Krishna simply by hearing Krishna's name even for the first time. Krishna does the work. So whoever you approach at a new time for the first time, have in your mind, how can I give them Krishna? And when you're approaching everyone through the day, you go to the grocery store, go to the bank, You go down the street for a drink or wherever you're going. Just have that in your mind to the next person. Lord Chaitanya says, whoever you see, whoever you meet, greet them. Give them prasad and give them Krishna's name if there is a means possible. When we used to do Sankirtan, we were distributing. We used to travel from state to state to state looking for the best gatherings that people were, a lot of people were gathering. So in those journeys, a lot of times you get on a toll, they have a toll highway will let you get there direct. You have to make this turn and that turn and everything else. So you pay to get there. But at the toll booth, there's a man waiting to take your money. Prahlad, he's named Raghunath now. He's a disciple of Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And I was told Gaur Govinda Maharaj was actually in Chaitanya Leela, as I've been told of several devotees that are in very advanced souls in the movement, But anytime we would stop at these toll booths, he would say something, anything he could think of to get somebody to say Hare Krishna. There's some psychologists who are saying people are having brain problems with the brain and certain things they can't pronounce. Do you ever hear the name Krishna? Can you say that? He would say things like that. And as stupid as it sounds, these people would say, Krishna is not hard to say. And then you get them to say Krishna, that's all you have to do. Is one of the secrets about Krishna consciousness. Krishna himself is in his name. Yeah. So when you say Krishna, it is Super soul. Paramatma in you that reciprocates with them. Paramatma hears that as Krishna's flute playing. When you say Krishna, it's non-different. So when you're chanting, similarly, Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami, he says that Super Soul hears this chanting of Hare Krishna as though it were Krishna himself playing his flute. Yeah. So, see, what an encouragement it is for us to realize what a privilege it is, this chanting that Lord Chaitanya is giving us as a means of transport. Because it is this chanting of Hare Krishna's name that also is going to be the delivering energy after we get out of these bodies. And it may come. If some of you get pure enough, Krishna will give you the choice. You want to stay on this planet longer or you want to go back home? It will give you the choice. I was reading 9th canto. Srila Prabhupada says, Veda Vyas, not only Veda Vyas, but Parshuram is still on this planet. He's dwelling in the regions northern India, just south of Banaras. Amazing. Of course, see, Parshuram is also Shaktivesh avatar, if I'm not mistaken. So he's halfway in between Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva, almost like Lord Shiva. But these different levels of advancement are being made available for us to be able to understand that they're reachable by us. We're all ordinary human beings, right? We think of one another as such, but Krishna doesn't think of us like that. Krishna still knows what we were like when we were with him in the spiritual world. Krishna knows all that about us. And Krishna can reveal and strengthen in us that knowledge we need to have constantly about him to continue our days here. There are, from what I understand, see, with the rebuilding of these 50 pyramids, when the Earth's axis is realigned, there will not be severe changes in the seasons. There will be changes, but they won't be as severe. But think about this. Right now, the openings on the north and south poles of the earth are closed off by ice. At one time, that ice was part of the liquid waters of the earth. And it was because the earth was moved out of its position that these places became frozen. So they are now covering over the openings that eventually will be made known. And those civilizations that live inside of the earth will have access again to the exterior surface. There are 11 races of people. 7 of them are giants. I wanted to go there at one time. I was doing research on this. But when I come to find out that there's 7 races of giants, and I don't think it's a place I would be too comfortable with. But see, if you analyze what happens when you take a glass of water that's at room temperature, and then you take a big chunk of ice and you put it in there, right? So the room temperature water starts dropping until it finally melts, and then eventually it'll get warmer. But what's happening with these icebergs, and from what we're being told, some of these icebergs are as big as our states are. Huge, big. So when they first start dropping, they're going to be bringing down the temperature of the waters of the world. The prophecies are saying that the waters of the world will come in on every coast for 20 miles. Have any of you ever heard of Edgar Cayce? Edgar Cayce was a prophet, I think about maybe 1600s or something, like the 1700s, or maybe even more recent than that. He said in his prophetic visions that Michigan itself, by the Great Lakes being so totally flooded, will be covered, and possibly even Michigan become an island of sorts. And that the world itself is described by our literatures as Navadvip, meaning 9 islands. And now the water level is such that we have thousands of islands. But see, if this comes back to 9 islands again, all these islands of Hawaii, maybe Hawaii itself, it could be totally swallowed up. And these civilizations have been so pushed out of the regular flow of societies that are existing in the so-called modern world. Their lack of communication with, quote unquote, the modern world keeps us, the modern world, from knowing what's going on with these civilizations that have been pushed out. On this very land, once considered sacred by the Native American indigenous peoples, this land was all considered sacred. Every water was free to drink from. You could go anywhere and lay down and sleep, and that was your living place. It was a free land. And there were millions and millions. One tribe of people named the Lakota people, there were 90 million people. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of these tribes of people inhabiting this land freely and peacefully, carrying on trade with South America, having walking routes all the way from here to South America. And yet, see, many of them, according to the histories even of the Christians, that their Savior came here on this continent and established spiritual paths for them to also be on. But when we came here, I say we, the Spanish settlers, the English settlers, the French settlers, they came with the mind to divide and conquer. And there was a big slaughter that went on that has not been told in our histories. Because whoever wins the war writes the history of who were the good guys and who were the bad guys. But these people were of such peaceful nature. They didn't have weapons like we had. They didn't have guns. They didn't have bullets. And it was easy to take over. But a restoration is coming, a reckoning is coming. See, they have no impetus, they have no reason to forewarn us who are enjoying the fruits of what their ancestors should have been able to also enjoy, but they were wiped out and destroyed. So those who are on the spiritual paths are going to be preserved. According to all the prophecies, all of those who are on the spiritual paths are going to be completed as perfect human beings. Srila Prabhupada says then, they will be born with the perfection of the cities. That means that our communications with one another, our family structures will be such. See, Hiranyakasipu, being a demon, as he was, still had the knowledge of how to bring forth progeny by mantra. By mantra. Only he slipped up. He slipped up. Instead of someone who's going to kill his enemy, he had a word that it's going to be somebody who will kill his enemy's enemy. And so he got killed by that one. But see, this process that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am that sex life in marriage that is done according to the precepts and the principles of religiousness, of that which Krishna has laid down from the beginning. If we look at this process of what we call procreation objectively, meaning forgetting everything we've had in the past as relations with others to bring children into the world. Forget about that. Let's look at how people were first born into this world. From Brahma, a man, in a male form, came the birth of many souls. Didn't need a wife. Didn't need a wife. His body was born of such nature that the process for creation with that body was such that by simply living, the seeds that were in that body could manifest, could come out of his ears, could come out of his eyes, could come out of his nose. Ikshvaku was born from a sneeze, and he was an emperor of the world. So these forms of bodies are more elevated than these that we think are the most elevated now. And in that form were produced higher, more elevated living beings whose lifestyles had been previously involved with spiritual energy. And so what is going to come in the future is this complete science and knowledge of God. And I am believing the possibility also may return, that by meditation in this process of Krishna consciousness, that living entities will once again be born with those kinds of bodies again. Let's see, it's going to reach its peak in about 5,000 years, and then it's going to start to dwindle, and then at the end of 10,000 years, it will be all over. So it looks as though that universe, that by the answered prayer of Murray Gupta to save the universe, it will probably be that generation of about 5,000 years from now. To see the way we're getting understanding from the Vedas, Krishna can give you the ability to be around them if you want to be around them. You're preaching now what's going to happen in the future by knowledge of Krishna. Krishna can let you see them by the fulfillment of your word. See, we have knowledge that's being revealed to us about spirituality that you will not get in any other, even spiritual paths. I've read the Book of Mormon. I read the Quran. I read the Bible. I read all these teachings. They do not have a drop of what we're getting in completeness in Srimad Bhagavatam. See what happens too. All of you from India come with the belief that all spiritually minded people hold within their minds the truths of reincarnation, vegetarian, but they don't. None of these people in America that are practicing Christianity, they think people who hold reincarnation in their minds are demons. They hold that as a demonic, because then you're putting off judgment. You know, they think that you have only this one life, and if you don't choose Jesus, you're going to burn eternally. That is Christian philosophy. And that is what they've come to believe is love of God. And they have justified in their minds, God can do that. In their minds, they've justified to believe that he can do whatever he wants. But see, we have knowledge from Krishna that the promoting of these ideas is actually divine. Because to say on the one hand, God is love, and he gives you 100 years to make up your mind about him, and if you don't, you're going to hell to burn in fire for eternity. Is that love? A person has to ask the question of that. And what you do come to find out is that the truths have been manipulated because of the leaders wanting to have control over the general populace. And see, that's the value. As Srila Prabhupada says, as it is. He hasn't changed any of the wording, and proof of that is, you won't find this in the Bible. Srila Prabhupada takes every single verse, every single word, showing you how he came to the conclusion of what the meaning of the verses are. Word for word translation, read it, every single verse. Sanskrit to English. So perfectly, so we can take full assurance that this is the words God has himself spoken, word for word, and we can have full assurance of it. We don't have to doubt in our minds. You ask any Christian who wrote the Bible, some of them will say God did, but then when you press them on it, they have to come to the admittance it was men inspired by God. When we analyze these Vedas, Krishna himself is speaking them into existence. This is just amazing what we have. And we have to do everything we can. Just imagine now, since 1965, Srila Prabhupada came to establish this ISKCON movement. But how many people have, after millions of lifetimes, gained this human form and not actually taken advantage of that which is being offered? Now, gain full knowledge of the eternal relationship we have with God. This very rare birth. We have to be born in a time when these Vedas are being given as they are, freely as they are. It's said that if you take a little piece of driftwood and float it on the ocean, and there's a turtle in the ocean bobbing up once every hour or so, the chances of you coming in contact with these literatures is the same as that turtle bobbing his head into that little tiny hole. Of all the places he has in the ocean to bring his head up, and he chooses that. This is you coming in contact with these transcendental Vedic literatures that are the greatest treasure human life has to understand about. I'm going to end class here, see if we're moving into later hours. Prashadam has been prepared by loving hands, loving devotees, and so on. Are there any comments, any questions, any realizations anyone like to share? Yes. Okay. Hare Krishna. Speak loudly.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances at your feet. I just want to, I have a comment and a question. The comment is okay, very grateful for the material words that you spoke, and I can understand such degree of realization you are speaking about, what you are speaking about, and you've gone so much in depth into the words of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You are speaking completely to the heart of deepest realization. So very grateful, and we are very fortunate to have your divine association. So I have one question. So if I look at it, okay, so one is understanding that how much important Krishna consciousness is, and then there are two aspects. Some hear it that okay, I understand, but then okay, they may feel that okay, I'm not qualified, I'm not able to be there. Okay. And the other part is that some become determined, they are able to progress into this. My question is related to those who are unable to get there. Again, there are two aspects to it.
Yeah.
So one is okay, those who are who are not able to get started and they are just in the runway itself. And the other ones are like they have got started into it, but they're struggling there. They don't want to progress there. So I'm speaking from myself there, from myself being there. So how does, when one has understood this fact, but is really struggling from that aspect, how does one get to the next level? How does one cultivate that determination in Krishna consciousness? Given that like we are in this material world, we are bound to get contaminated in this material world. So how do we get above that cycle?
Yeah, good question. Of course, I'm not both people, but I do know what struggle is like. But Krishna consciousness became easy for me because I was looking for Krishna consciousness before I came to Krishna consciousness. And I think that has a lot to do with, as Krishna says, there's 4 different kinds of people who are looking for him. And if they come out of distress, then when they get relief, okay, I'm better now. Bye. And so people also, sometimes they're looking for wealth. They think, God's going to benefit me, so I go worship him and then I'll get some. And they get wealth and go, oh, okay, I'm great now. So similarly, and sometimes people are inquisitive. But see, people that are inquisitive and then there's a person who actually wants knowledge. And it is that level of person that finds it much easier than a person who may come out of feeling like societal pressure. When I came, it was so much a relief for me to find. I had been believing in Christianity all along that there must be some people somewhere that actually know more about God than what Christians know. And when I came to Continental Georgia, first Sunday Easter I came here, 1983, I was just these guys, they all believe the same thing and they're all like agreeing with each other. How can they do that with so many people? You go even to Christian churches, it doesn't take long before you see that people don't understand the power of the modes of material energy. And see, we've been exposed to this material energy for so many millions of lifetimes. Some of it's still working on us, even when we do surrender. It's just like Srila Prabhupada made a comparison. When you got a fan turning, it's like us in the material world doing work. So when we pull out the plug, we start chanting, still the fan's going a little bit. And so depending on how hard we had that fan going, it would be that much more difficult for us to overcome the effects of its later repercussions, right? So people who keep themselves as much as possible free, and then when they do finally come in contact with Krishna consciousness, it's much easier. So I would say probably people have difficulty because of the amount, possibly, of times they've spent in the material energy developing habits. And then too, we have a strong sense of will and this false ego. The parents at birth, see, they give us credit for being powerful, strong, proud, puffed up, arrogant. These are forms of pride and these things that we don't realize help build the force of the false ego. And if we don't grow up with training to know, then we become ourselves puffed up, arrogant, prideful. And we have to realize none of this is ours. None of this is our energy. It was here before before we got here, so we'll be here after we leave. And so everything we have to be able to use as a privilege that we've been granted the ability to have. Does that answer the question? Any other comments, questions, realizations? I know everybody's waiting for shower. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you for your talk. I have a question because we're how you do, but you also mentioned on your talk there's going to be a period of resurgence of God, resurgence of God consciousness throughout the whole world. So why there's going to be that resurgence even though it's coming?
I'm having a hard time. There's so much background. Yeah, and there's a microphone. Yeah. But I can probably.
So what I was saying was that this is Kali Yuga, but you also mentioned there's going to be a resurgence of God consciousness. So how do those two things
Work together. The question is, we're living in Kali Yuga, and of course Kali Yuga is described as being the most fallen age. And yet I'm preaching that it's going to be such a yuga within Kali Yuga, so how do those things, how are they compatible with each other? So, this is my realization. This is not, you're not going to find this word for word in the books. You have to pray for Krishna to give you this understanding, okay? But what I'm going to tell you is what I got from Super Soul. Lord Chaitanya, when he was on this planet, 1486 he appeared. And with him, Lord Brahma, in the form of Haridas Thakur, came. Revealed the fact he was chanting 192 rounds. In his position in the universe, that's what he does. He chants, that's all he has to do. He has 4 heads to do it. In following the instructions of Lord Chaitanya, he's revealing the perfect lifestyle of a devotee. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this that we will be singing in another hour at 7 o'clock Sandhyartha. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's vision is, and we sing about it, and I know in my heart it's not just a song and something he saw in his mind. This is reality. Lord Chaitanya is seen by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as being worshipped by all the demigods. By all the demigods. Do you know what that means? See, Lord Chaitanya came to bring the universe back home. This is my realization. Am I going to get this anywhere else? I don't think so. Maybe, but this vision that Bhaktivinoda had of Lord Chaitanya, he had, because Lord Chaitanya is being offered that seat by Lord Brahma for as long as it takes for an arti, which will be about 10,000 of our years. You see that? Where Lord Brahma is, the amount of time he's going to be offering Lord Chaitanya will be 10,000 of our years. You see that? And then when he gets off that throne, see? Yeah, that's how it happens. See, the same thing happened when Krishna got off his chariot, right, in the Battle of Kurukshetra. As soon as he got off the chariot turned into dust, powder, because so many enemies were aiming at that to destroy. But as long as Krishna stayed on that chariot, nothing could happen. And that's some Lord Chaitanya sitting on that throne. As long as he's on that throne, those in the universe he wants to come, they're going back to God. See, Murari Gupta's prayer was to liberate the universe. But Krishna also doesn't go against anyone's will. He doesn't force you. If you want, here's another further answer to the question of why. It's our desire. Much of it is based on our desire. We are where we are based on how much we've wanted to get here. And the more we want Krishna, the more he's going to give us himself. And the more we want to enjoy in the world, the more he's going to give us that. So be careful. We have to be careful what we want. And then know the difference between the eternal and the temporary. Because that's the decision the soul is making when it's choosing to serve the material energy, bringing itself under the bondage of the material energy as a slave. See, when we serve the senses of the body, we can only get the result of what the body has to give us to offer. So if we serve the senses of Krishna, we have the eternal result to look forward to. Any other comments? Does that answer the question? Yes. John. Gratulate Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.